What is up, jabronis? JJ back here with none other than Spread Astaire. Looking forward to talking a little tennis with you, Spread. I think overall, this is one of the most fun weeks for tennis. I'd argue of the year. You have just a bunch of 1,000 tournaments. I think sprinkled in with a few 250s. You just basically like everyone who's anyone playing tennis is entered in something this week. Even Novak is in a tournament. So I think overall, it's a fun week. I know it's not a major week for sure, but it is a fun week of tennis. As we get closer to towards the French, and then the very short grass season for Wimbledon. It's French then Wimbledon, right? Or is it Wimbledon and then?
It's French then Wimbledon. So it'll be French will be Memorial Day weekend, and we'll have Wimbledon for the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah. So there's obviously been a lot of matches thus far over the last few days. And we'll talk on a bit of the Acapulco matches that are going to happen tonight on the men's side. On the ladies' end, they played most of their matches or played all their matches so far in Doha, most of the matches in Guadalajara. But we could talk on a few of them. I actually like a play that starts in a little over an hour. So I'll give that out as my play here. But what's been your thoughts on some of these tournaments, right? Some guys in form, some guys out of form, some guys in form that have been losing. I guess that's par for the course with tennis, right? But anything that's kind of stuck out with you on the men's end in Dubai, or even in this, brief tournament thus far in Acapulco, or even on the ladies' end, what's kind of been sticking out for you the most?
Well, yeah, no, first of all, to touch on it, I mean, this is a gambler's dream right now, right? If you wanted to do one of those crazy challenges where, you had money on the line, I mean, I think you could get close to like 140 of the 156 hours this week, right? I mean, yeah. If you have the tennis channel, it's on 24/7. So that's been a lot of fun. I mean, just to go by, we'll start with the Middle East. Novak's back, right? And so it's going to be interesting here as he's in and out of these tournaments. Like as of right now, I don't think he's going to be able to play Indian Wells or Miami, barring some major change. So, a chance to see him. I like the way the Dubai plays. It plays kind of fast, but it's not like ridiculously fast. But I feel it makes the points quicker. It's actually about my favorite speed of hard court, so I enjoy that. The other thing I liked was I got to watch the women on the surface all week before, so I didn't feel like I was guessing going into the first round. That was a lot of fun, right? A couple big upsets so far, but nothing really wild, right? And I think it's Djokovic's tournament to lose, and I think it's going to feel that way for the ones that he has entered in, right? And then we got other stuff, right? They're in France right now. They're in Mexico right now. There's even a challenger in France that Tsonga's playing. It's interesting because I think for Dubai, they have to choose, money or getting ready for Indian Wells. I personally think that, playing in Mexico gets you more ready for that swing just because you're in the same time zone, kind of the same climate. Obviously, it's a little warmer down there, right? But you're kind of getting ready for what's ahead. But boy, Dubai's actually only an ATP 500, $2,800,000 on the line there. Very lucrative event for those who do choose to play it. So I've been enjoying it, man. It's just so much fun. I mean, it's on when I get up, it's on when I go to sleep, and it's been on all day. So I've been trying to track as much as I can, but you know how it is, right? You definitely have to rely on some networking and other people having eyes on some of these matches.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? Like that's why I said like this is one of the most fun 1 to 2 weeks of tennis all season long, because even when you get like your U.S. Open, right, you spend most of the morning with no tennis. I mean, as you go along the line, they'll start at 12 noon and they'll run it right till midnight. But you do have gaps. I mean, no matter what time zone you're in, you have tennis for the next 2 weeks. And it, to your point, it's been a lot of fun. I think overall, Djokovic, how that plays out on his end. I also can't believe that pool is that big for an ATP 500.
It's just because they want to get people over there, right? And they constantly do that just to get the big names. They have a lot of money to spend in Dubai, and they're not they're not hesitant to just splash that around.
Yeah, and I think the other benefit too with having all these tournaments, as I briefly mentioned before, is you basically get every name in something. Unless you're injured, you're very much so playing in one of these tournaments. And so if you're a fan of 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 different players, they're playing somewhere as long as they're healthy these next 2 weeks. So definitely something to look forward to there. And I get to see players that I really genuinely enjoy watching play. It's good. Now I'll say this. We'll talk on Acapulco after this. Let's just talk on these next 3 matches coming up on the women's end. I mean, there's 2 going on now, but In Guadalajara, I guess this would be the smaller of all the tournaments, right? I mean, out of all the 5 active tournaments going on, you got the 3 heavy ones on the men's end, with the lower one being in Santiago, and then Doha and Guadalajara. Guadalajara, is that a 250 spread?
Yeah, it's 250.
So here, the first match with my girl Caroline Dolehyde, I like her. I know that she tends to struggle when she goes up against when she's out of what I'll call entering or exiting the farm system, where she starts to play with the top 100 chicks. Prior to that, though, she is very good against players ranked outside the top 100, and she is drawing a player here that is way out of form. I think this line is more of your typical math line, because you get a player in Dolehyde who goes through spurts where she'll flirt with outside the top 200, then go inside the top 100, then go inside the 100. I've liked her form, though. I think she's been playing well, and again, I would never play her as she's playing well and elevates towards the top 100 player, but she is seeing another player out of form, and I consider her in almost as good a form as she can be in, at least what I'm used to seeing anyway, winning a bunch of matches recently. Again, competition somewhat of a concern, but it's not like competition is an issue here, as she's seeing Zhu, who's been very much so out of form recently. Love the spot with her laying a game and a half here, minus 120 FanDuel. What any thoughts there?
Yeah, Dolehyde was a tough one, right? Because I've been helping Susie with the playbook, and for me, she's hard to put a finger on. But I think you summed it up better than I was trying when we were working through this last night. When she's not playing the top 100, she's really good, and it makes sense because she's got the power to blow some of these ITF level players off the court. But she doesn't really have the athleticism. She doesn't have the consistency to hang, with the top players. Because once you get into the top 50, there's a couple, but most of those girls can blast the ball at the same pace that she can. So she gets to use her decided pace and the fact that she does hit a heavy ball. Interesting thing about Guadalajara now, it plays slow, but it's in the altitude, which gives it a little bit of pop off the racket. It's also pretty high bouncing as well. So I think it's a really interesting hardcourt surface. It's definitely not your typical hardcourt surface, but I think it will play into her favor here today because it gives her a little more time to get close and set the ball up like she likes. So, yeah, I agree with you here. We were kind of going back and forth, but, I felt like Dolehyde was the right side when we're building the lineups. And I agree with you here. And I agree with you. Might as well lay the 1.5. I don't think there's any case, or it's 2.5. What do you have? I have minus 2.5.
So FanDuel still has 1.5 at $1.20.
Oh, wow. That's a great number.
Yeah. DK has 1.5 games minus 115. I'm sorry, 2.5 games minus 115. If you're into that, you can go at FanDuel and lay 2 sets or lay a set and a half at plus 175. To me, I just look at it as the games. Look, to me, Dolehyde's either going to lose this outright or she's likely just going to continue to play really well. So that's why I prefer to lay the games. Look, in a weird scenario where, and Dolehyde's got the much bigger serve here. So if Dolehyde gets, 6-2'd in a set, I'm not going to feel great about my spreads bet even if she wins. But she should put a ton of pressure on Zhu's serve here. And she makes a lot of interesting mistakes in routine rallies. But she's seeing, competition here that shouldn't really rattle her that much, and she should have a huge advantage on serve. And I'd even argue maybe even within rally, she should be able to blow the ball past her. I like the spot. And again, I decided opted not to go money line because why lay 140 when to me she's very live to lose this outright. But I think she's also very live to win easily. So that's why I think you could take a stab at the 2-0 sets plus 175, which is FanDuel. That's the best number I saw. But I really like the spot, especially with the 1.5 games number at FanDuel. And even at 2.5, not too bad either.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Now, after her is our girl Raducanu, who is still ranked 12th, but she will certainly decline as days go by if she continues the form she's been in. What's your take on her, what we've seen recently, and how she's kind of, I don't want to say peaked since the Open, but she's definitely maybe enjoyed winning a bit because complacency looks like it's taken a bit of effect. But we've seen this, right? It's not only on the women's side; it's on the men's side. Certain guys and gals that get into good form and then they lose the form, And it's just kind of, them working their way back to get back to where they were. She looked so good months back. Hasn't been the same recently. Do you think she kind of picks things up here?
Overall, no, she's still on my fade list. This is not the day to execute it, though. I just don't think Dasha Seville has the game to go ahead and do it. Even Raducanu, not at her best, should be able to defeat her. So she's on my fade list, but you got to choose when to do it. It's not a blind fade here. Let's talk about what you said. I completely agree, and I don't fault the players. All right. I mean, she's really one. What is she, 18 or 19? She goes from working with a coach that she's known from when she's really young, probably scraping by, right? Budgeting, right? A lot of these decisions. Now, millions of dollars, a ton of media attention, all these media commitments that she's not used to. Not to mention, she's still got to practice because everyone's gunning for her. She's not the first woman for this to happen to, and she won't be the last. And it's actually pretty typical that we see a drop in performance from these young ladies coming right off a Grand Slam win, because the amount of media attention that they get and their commitments, sponsors, things of that effect kind of take over. And a lot of them don't have an experienced manager to handle everything, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happened. Now she's starting to get a team in place. She split ties with her old coach, which I know some people think is disloyal, but, you do need someone who understands how to navigate the international aspect of the tour, right? There's more than just, hey, this is how you're supposed to hit your forehand. Where are we staying? Where are we practicing when we're staying there? Where are we staying in the weeks that we're not playing tournaments, right? So it made sense that she's having to make that transition. I do expect her to struggle in that transition. I will eventually fade her in this tournament, but not today. I'm not ready to go ahead and bet it with her. I think they have a good price here. I'm seeing a minus 337 and a minus 4.5. And we hate these 4.5s, right? Because sometimes it comes down to the coin toss, right? 6-3, 6-4, right? I don't want to get involved here in this match. She's still on my fade list, but not in this match.
Yeah, I mean, I'll briefly touch on this as well. Like, you look at who Raducanu has been losing to. She has been losing to top 100 players. I mean, she's been losing to top 75 players. She's been losing to top 50 players. Here is a dream matchup for someone like Raducanu who's looking to find some form. I mean, Seville's been in poor form against players outside the top 200. So she's been really struggling. And it seems like a good matchup for Raducanu. The price is cheap. I'd almost argue the fact that she's played so poorly, there might be some value on her, like 2-0 sets here. She has absolutely no business dropping a set in this match. But again, she's been very poor form. So, if she gets broken, is mentally, she's going to, kind of have some demons come back. But yeah, if I was to bet, I would lay 2 sets. I would lay the 1.5 with her. But again, not favorable enough. I never like targeting players out of form, even though the spot kind of makes sense from a number perspective. Because wouldn't you argue, Spread, if we got even half of the form she had in the Open, she'd be like minus 1,200 here?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, maybe not 1,200, but at least minus 800, right? So, but this is a tough situation. I think that we're fine staying on the sidelines and just taking some notes on how she plays. And maybe we don't even do the fade this week. Maybe we wait till Indian Wells. But I think that this tournament's going to be a great preparation for her. So let's see how she does, right? Some pressure on her. All eyes on her. She is expected to do well. Let's see how she handles this newfound pressure.
Yeah, so I guess briefly we could talk on this last match. I don't follow these two players enough to give any relevant of an opinion. Between is it Zarazua and Fretch? Mm-hmm. Do you see any value? I don't follow these two enough at all to give any hard opinion either way.
All right, and when you said you had one for this tournament, I thought this is going to be it, JJ. So now I'm able to give out a play here too, and I'm pretty happy with it. And I might even not pronounce her name right? Zarazua, right? Renata, I don't know. But what I do know is every single year at this tournament, she gets a bunch of upsets, and she performs so much better at this, at her home country. It's just unbelievable. It's like an NBA style home court advantage. The way that she raises her level at home. I'm going to go ahead and put a half unit on the +5 and another half unit on the money line. And I'm just basically going off her previous performance here, even when she's coming in losing, ITF 60s in other countries. She always performs well at home. I'm going to go ahead and take a shot against Freck, who's, a solid player, and in any other place in the world, right? I would say, hey, this number's right. But with the way that Zarazua, and excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, overperforms at home, I really like the opportunity to grab the underdog here.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, so got them in there. And let's briefly talk on a bit of Acapulco. So we had a few scratches, right, with some of the folks who won tournaments last week, or at least made the finals of tournaments last week. Looks like no Alcaraz, maybe no Norrie, no Opelka. Or no, Norrie's good. No, it's no Alcaraz and no Opelka. So it's adjusted some things. You have some lucky losers coming in this week or today. Lopez and Nishioka, I personally don't have a strong opinion here. I think, in the right form, Lopez can beat top 50 players, got a good serve, moves relatively well. He's always a decent grass player. And then Nishioka he's a tough guy to get balls past him. He's almost like a little gnat, getting everything backwards, almost like a wall per se, right? Lacks the big serve, which has made him struggle at times. That shouldn't be an issue here, though. Any thoughts on this match in particular?
Yeah, I like Nishioka a lot. I think that, if you were to do one of those moneyline parlay anchors, I like him here at 357. I really like the way that he was priced on DraftKings today. I think this is a great matchup for him. When it comes to the spread, seems about right? We're back at that -4. Like I said, these fours, I just hate that the coin toss it gets involved. And so I kind of stay away from fours. I like -3s or 5s and more, The 4, it's the key number for a reason, and I'll stay away. And like I said, unless you have something else you love, I'm not in a hurry to throw him in here in a parlay piece. But if you have other ones that you like, as we continue on this card, I really think he's got a great chance to win. Lopez is a good player, but he's definitely diminished here in the past couple of years, and I think Nishioka will be able to take advantage.
Anything even worth talking about with Paire and Medvedev? Obviously, Paire has that mercurial type upside. Has an above average serve, but man, is he erratic at times. Don't think there's much to discuss here. I couldn't imagine Medvedev laying down in this spot. Don't get me wrong, Paire has the talent to rattle him a bit, but is it even worth discussing?
I mean, I'll disagree with you. I think Medvedev rolls here. Paire does have that huge upside, but Medvedev is so good, right, that even if Paire is playing his best, I still like Medvedev to win. So really you're guessing, hey, on that upside, does he cover the 5.5? And if you want to play that, right, and you feel like you have, you feel like you got a good night's sleep and didn't spend all night drinking last night, you want to play +5.5, I'm not going to talk you out of it, but I'm fine staying away from it.
Awesome. So I guess we can go over to Berrettini and my guy, Tommy Paul.
Yeah.
I like him a little too much. Then he loses me a lot of money is what I mean. I watch him play and he has so much upside. He was such a good player when he was even younger. The serve isn't as big as where you'd like it to be for a men's player, but he moves really well. He's very clever. He's crafty with, his shot selection. But he's another one, a little bit of a mental head case. And a guy like Berrettini is not a spot I want to target him in. I like playing Tommy Paul. I actually do like playing Tommy Paul against big servers, but I like playing him against big servers that have issues with first serve percentage to be exact. Berrettini gets first serves in. Berrettini doesn't double fault. Berrettini doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Like Berrettini's not in the best form right now, so that does give Tommy Paul a bit of that edge. 3.5 games does feel like a big number, which would make me want to bet Tommy Paul. But again, I've lost so much money betting him down this stretch. And yes, it's nice to see him inside the top 40. He's slowly starting to elevate himself up. But I don't think he's there yet. It's a stay away spot for me overall. But any thoughts there from you, Spread?
Yeah, when it comes to Berrettini matches, here's how I look at it. Does the player playing Berrettini have a backhand to exploit Berrettini's backhand? Or, is he left-handed where he'd be using his forehand to do that? And I don't know if I trust Tommy Paul's backhand to be that much more superior to Berrettini's backhand. So I'm not going to go ahead and grab the games here. But I do think this is a fascinating matchup. And I'll tell you, when I was doing the lineups, I didn't really feel comfortable putting Berrettini in there at over 9K, right? It was just there's so many ways that I could see Tommy Paul getting this victory, right? I mean, if he has a great day with his backhand, and really plays to his best, he can do it. Or Berrettini falters a bit on the first serve, right? So I don't think of all the spend ups, right? I didn't think that he was a smash spot. I didn't want to build my lineup around him. At the same time, I'm a little hesitant to get involved with the dog here. So I'm staying away here. I think at these numbers, I would lean towards taking Paul. Just because, we're not in the business, right, of laying 288 very often and minus 3.5. Well, it kind of falls in that number, right, where, I'm not as worried about, a coin toss getting there. I could see Tommy Paul getting to at least a tiebreak here, covering that spread. So I lean Paul, but I didn't play this match.
Yeah, I think if I was gonna bet it, I would just bet Tommy Paul to take a set. I just feel like there is a realistic scenario where Berrettini wins this in 3 and covers the game spread. Because I just think Tommy Paul is likely going to be more under siege on serve than Berrettini would. Tommy Paul could take advantage of the fewer ops he has, but either way, I agree with you though. I'd lean him, but I'm not going to fire myself. And Duhart gets a bit of a dream matchup here with the hometown kid in Hernandez, huge favorite. I don't know much about Hernandez, and Andujar is not exactly in like the best form. And he definitely prefers the clay as well. So stay away spot for me. Any insight here, spread?
Yeah. I mean, actually, I should say no. I don't have a lot. I think you hit it right on his head, right? Alex Hernandez, not a player I've known a lot of so far. You're right. This is a great spot for Andujar, but it's priced appropriately.
Millman, another one of my dudes, versus Giron. Now, I'm not a big Giron fan. I know when he's in form. First of all, that guy is doing some squats spread. I mean, this dude's legs are incredible. I mean, but needless to say, I think he still needs a little more oomph on his serve. Moves pretty well, but makes a lot of mental mistakes. Millman, we could argue the same thing, right? Millman's a little more consistent. I actually like playing Millman because he's a really good returner. I like playing him against big servers. Guy like Giron, I'm not in love with the spot. And again, I am a Millman guy. I'm happy to lose money betting on his matches. This is a stay away for me, though. I think, again, it's just a matchup play for me that I don't like. I don't like Millman against non-big servers. I think he has a tremendous edge against folks that don't return well. And Giron's, I'd consider him an above-average returner and an above-average guy in long rallies. I just feel like Giron does a lot of what Millman does better right now, even though he's not in the best form. So, again, another stay away spot for me, even though it's a guy I do like to target betting-wise. But any thoughts here, spread?
Yeah, so originally I was going to go with Giron here. Then it's like, you look things up and you say, wait a second. I did this 2 weeks ago at Delray Beach and it didn't come through for me, right? That kind of kept me away, right? Pretty similar conditions. Delray plays a tad bit faster, but, fairly similar, right? Fairly similar climate as well. And Millman was able to get it done. So, I don't like to just mirror recent results, but at plus 112, it seems like it's Millman or pass here. I don't know why I'd lay minus 136 with a guy who had lost in the exact same matchup in very similar conditions just 2 weeks ago.
What was that number 2 weeks ago, spread?
I don't know where to pull that up. I just was going through.
I do think to your point, just to let you know, I do think it was bigger. I do think that number might have been past 180 2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah, it makes sense because we loved Giron in that match, and I think it actually sunk one of my lineups that day, if I remember right. So, I think it's Millman or pass here, even though you're getting less value than you did last time, but just because you're paying for that information, you've seen Millman execute the game plan against Giron.
Yeah, so I guess we can move over to the next one, Altmeier versus Cam Norrie. The lefty, right, wins the tournament, beats Opelka. I know that these are typical quote-unquote lay-down spots for individuals like Cam Norrie, who now has a lot of legs in his tires. But if you remember, he went through a run like this a year ago, spread, where he was like winning the first 3 rounds or 4 rounds of like every tournament. He wasn't finishing most, but he hits a relatively flat ball, definitely better on hard surfaces, above average serve, nice 1-2 punch as well, and a great returner. I mean, definitely a really good returner. I think it's a bad matchup for Altmeier. 475 is a little too thick for my blood, though. To your point on including players in parlays, I would, in your first player you mentioned, I wouldn't mind throwing Norrie in there as well. Hard to imagine Norrie in his current form loses this match, even despite the extra tread on the tires. Because we've seen him. He's built for these matches. He did it a bunch last year in a row and in consecutive. So I'll stay away. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, same deal. We do like to do the fatigue fades, but I don't like blind fatigue fades. I want to see some sort of matchup advantage, right? Or some path to victory that I can imagine with these players that goes along with the fatigue. And I just don't see it here. The way Norrie's been playing is just a class above Altmeier's best. And anything short of, Norrie just, dropping dead with exhaustion on the court, I really find it hard to see how he loses this match.
I'm gonna go ahead with your approval. I'm gonna skip the Nadal match. I don't think it's worth talking about.
Yep.
It doesn't. You could bet Kudla, but give me a break. Even at plus 1,300, I'd argue there's still not enough value even for him at plus 1,300. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough to see Nadal the way that he's playing right now going against him. He's also really enjoys this tournament. He loves the service. It plays rather slow for a hard court, which he really likes. And for whatever reason, he loves it down in Mexico. I don't see there's any way that you could take Kudla here.
Yeah, so we'll talk on these last two matches. My guy Sonego, and I know you love Mr. Wolf. I know he had that little was it the tail or the he had something with his hair. I don't remember.
The mullet. He has the mullet. Yeah.
He still has it?
I'm pretty sure he does. I think he does. Yeah.
So this is interesting, right? Because Wolf is actually pretty difficult to break on serve. He doesn't have like a monster serve in terms of kilos, but he's got a good 1-2 punch, and he's pretty reliable on serve. Sonego definitely bumped up the MPHs on his serve over the last 12 to 18 months. Even though a guy that came up as a really good clay player, he developed himself quite a heavy serve. This figures to be a bit of a serve fest. However, the total does not indicate this. I think some would argue maybe for a soft line on Sonego, but Sonego is one of those players that has these like interesting service games where he'll cruise through 40-0, 40-0, 40-0, and then it's like double fault, second serve, return to the net, and then you're just like 0-30, and he's talking to himself, and then he typically gets broken in those service games. What's your thoughts on this match? I'll be honest. I lean the over at 22.5 minus 105 just because this, to me, plays like a serve fest. But what do you think?
I really like Sonego here. JJ Wolf, right? One of my favorites. And just as a fan here, I'd be rooting for him. But when you start breaking it down, similar to Dolehyde a bit with JJ Wolf, he can crush these guys, right? At the challenger level and some of these lower ones. But once he steps up in class, right, a lot of his limitations become evident. And I guess Sonego's actually done very well for me the past couple of weeks. So maybe I'm a little biased in that regard, but I really like the way that he's been playing. He seems to be taking this very seriously. And I think he's a guy that's really poised up to move up the rankings here over these next 3 or 4 months. So I like Sonego here to cover the -3.
I do agree. Relatively cheap price on Sonego and definitely could take advantage of it. I didn't realize there's actually 2 more matches. So Tsitsipas and Digier. Call me crazy. I've always liked his game, Digier. I'm pronouncing that right?
I call him Giron, but I don't know. Like, honestly, like when you watch it, they pronounce it differently depending on where the announcers are from. I don't worry about pronunciations too much.
I think that Digier is vulnerable to be broken on every service game, so that's a bit of a problem. So I don't love the idea of grabbing games with him. 19.5. It does feel like 19 is a bit of a low number. I definitely could see a scenario where 6-4, 6-4 is the winner here. But with that said, you can basically grab 6 games, which would mean 6-3, 6-3 is a winner. Because you can create 6 games off of 5.5 and 6.5 at about $150. To me, call it me being a little more bullish on Digier's game. Tsitsipas is definitely in a spot where between his form and whatnot, he should roll here. But, I would consider 6-4, 6-3 rolling, and that would cover the 6. So what's your thoughts there, Spread?
Yeah, this one was a stay away for me. It was just when they get lined so high like this, it's too easy for the favorite, even if you get a 6-2 in the first set, you're still a little worried, right? Is the other guy going to dial in? Is he going to lit up a little bit? So I was completely staying away from this. Most of the times when this happens, like I lean towards taking the games But then a lot of times when I go check the results, like after we've done a show like this, a lot of times those leans don't work out, and so, sometimes it's a 6-2, 6-1 or something. So I'm staying away here. But, if you told me you wanted to go with that bet, I wouldn't be against it.
Cool. And I guess last but not least, you have another huge favorite in Zverev. I believe he's an even bigger favorite than Nadal is. Him against Gojo. Just tough to imagine Zverev laying down here. What do you think here, spread? To me, it's like, are you going to get one of these big favorites to lose? Probably not in this round. And Gojo's not exactly been in the best form either to attack him. This is an easy stay away spot on my end. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. I'm with you. I'm not going to touch this match. We've seen Zverev implode before, so it's not even worth it adding to a parlay. Like just turn it on and maybe take some notes to see if he's in form. But he tried to vulture that 250 right after the Australian Open and wasn't able to do that there. Got to wonder where his mindset's at. No interest in laying it here. So you can even say, hey, I'm looking to fade him, but Gojo's not the guy to do it with. Pretty easy to stay away from this one.
Got it. Yeah, so that wraps up the video. We obviously gave out a few picks, a few even what I'll call leans, I guess. We don't brag about the leans if they win anyway. So, but yeah, a few picks for you guys. And real quick before we get off spread. So Vegas Bruce asked a question here. Got a chance had a question which I left off on the Drake video yesterday. I did see it, Bruce. So basically what Bruce said was in college basketball, KenPom, obviously Ken Pomeroy gives his own rankings and his own projected scores on games. And how much do I leverage it versus the actual spread and actual betting? I will tell you this: Ken Pomeroy gives you numbers for college basketball based on his own numbers he's been developing and using for years. You cannot use his numbers to win betting sports. Actually, you look at it long term, his numbers would actually lose you money if you were blindly following them. What you can use his data for is for tracking things like pace, how good teams are at the free throw line. Is a team that can make threes going up against a team that's really vulnerable against teams that make threes. You can leverage teams in terms of strength of schedule. But the issue with KenPom's rankings, Bruce, just to let you know, is that he doesn't modify his priors. So whatever his priors are coming into a season, his numbers will reflect that all year long. This is why a team on his end may be a very bad team all year long, but he might have had them high in his priors. And he'll just continue to have them inside. Like the sports odds makers will come up with numbers that are typically 4 or 5 points off of his projected numbers because he does not modify his priors, and his numbers have nothing to do with injuries. So if the 3 best players for a team get hurt in the first 2 weeks of the season, his priors don't adjust. Like it all season, it assumes these players are there until there's enough of a sample where this team has played with a degraded team, where his numbers can slowly begin to adjust more to a normal means. Drake yesterday being 12 on his numbers, Drake had a lot of aspirations coming into this season. They have not performed up to expectations. Now, of course, it sucks that it's a 2-point game with 8 minutes left and they lose by 16. But to me, you can't leverage KenPom's projected scores as data. You leverage the data to help you project your own scores, if that makes any sense. So, hope that answers your question, Bruce. And Cody brings up a good point on the Haslametrics being very good as well. I think you could leverage whichever one you want for data, but either way, I wouldn't follow any blind. But yeah, there's my 2 cents. Hope you found it helpful. Either way, thanks again, Spread, for popping in on short notice. I'll do a nice little tennis video. I'm sure you're excited to get NBA back in a few days. And pick up on those rundowns, which have been excellent with you and Tyler and the DFS crew. But other than that, yes, guys, I gave you a few bets. Feel free to peek the chat to see what they were. I typed them in for you. As always, gamble responsibly, stay safe, and run pure, folks. I'll see you guys tomorrow talking golf with that side of the house. Okay, later.